Chapter 1778. Chu Luiyue? The wedding is in half a month? Why didn't she know about it? And this invitation card. When did he prepare it? He actually took it out so casually? Chu Luiyue was dumbfounded. Mao Zhen directly took the invitation card. As soon as it entered her hand, a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. This invitation card was actually made of ink brocade paper. Ink brocade paper was an extremely precious rice paper. It was famous because of its rare materials, complicated craftsmanship, and low production. It was also because of these reasons that the price of ink brocade paper was extremely expensive. But even so, ink brocade paper was still extremely popular, causing people to scramble for it like a flock of ducks. This was because the ink brocade paper was extremely thin, but it was very tough. The sharp tip of a knife could not cut it, and ice, water, and fire could not destroy it. As long as it was well preserved, it could survive for tens of thousands of years. Not to mention ordinary people, even the first-rate families in the Divine Ruins world might not have much of it. However, such precious ink brocade paper was actually used by Rong Xiu to make a wedding invitation card. She really didn't know if she should say that he was too extravagant or that he valued this wedding too much. And the person who was about to marry him. Mao Zhen carefully looked at the invitation card, then nodded with a smile. Don't worry, when the time comes, I will definitely prepare a generous gift and personally congratulate you. Rong Xiu's smile deepened. Then you, and I will wait for your arrival. As soon as the two of them walked out of the Divine Dragon Island's barrier, Chu Luiyue grabbed Rong Xiu's hand. Then what's with the invitation card? The wedding is in half a month. Why didn't I know anything about it before? Rong Xiu smiled and let her hold his wrist. His voice was low and gentle. The wedding date was decided by me just now. In fact, this date has been postponed several times. This time, I don't want to postpone it anymore. Half a month later, we will return to the Yuntian Tower and get married immediately. Although his voice was as gentle and soft as usual, his tone was very firm. Obviously, he had made up his mind on this matter. Looking at his deep and calm pair of phoenix eyes, Chu Luiyue was suddenly stunned. She suddenly couldn't bring herself to ask the rest of the questions. Rong Xiu had already mentioned this matter too many times. It was just that they didn't seem to have the right time and opportunity. Thinking it had been too long. My father, don't worry, I've already sent someone to invite them. They should be arriving at the Cloud Heaven Tower soon. In addition, your friends and subordinates will also go with you to the Cloud Heaven Tower. Chu Luiyue paused. Rong Xiu's lips curved up as he patiently explained. Mu Hongyu and the rest will come. Also, Sun Yi will probably inform the 13 Yu guards after receiving the news. Chu Luiyue widened her eyes slightly and said after a while. Yai. From then on, Rong Xiu had been traveling with her. Thinking about it, these things should have been done before that. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows and didn't deny it. He had originally planned to bring Chu Luiyue back from the Phoenix Mountain and wait for everything to be ready before getting married. However, too many accidents had happened later, so it had been delayed until now. Do you blame me for not discussing it with you before? Rong Xiu lowered his voice. But I don't want to wait any longer. Chu Luiyue's heart suddenly seemed to have been hit by something. Her eyes were slightly hot as she nodded with a smile. Me too. Let's go home. Someone's coming. Shengguan Jing suddenly noticed something and looked up. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. The two figures in front. Why do they look so familiar? That's Rong Xiu and you. Nansu Huai followed his line of sight and was pleasantly surprised. Although Chu Ning's cultivation realm was low, he had an indestructible divine body, so his eyesight was not bad. He looked over as well, and immediately became excited. It's indeed you and them. Shengguan Jing had already rushed forward. Nansu Huai looked back at the Xian formation and waved his sleeve, causing the light to disperse. Then he and Chu Ning also followed. Shengguan Jing was the fastest and soon shortened the distance between them. Chu Luiyue and Rong Xiu also noticed them and immediately sped up. Taizu. Father. Master. Previously, the people of Divine Dragon Island had rejected them outside, and Dumpling had said a lot, so she guessed that they should still be waiting outside. As expected, hearing her voice, the few of them were overjoyed. Shengguan Jing went forward and couldn't hide his excitement. He first looked up and down at Chu Luiyue. How are you? Did you get hurt on Divine Dragon Island? They didn't do anything to you, right? Chu Luiyue felt warm in her heart and said with a smile. Taizu, don't worry. Don't you see that I'm fine? As she said that, she deliberately turned half a circle so that the few of them could see clearly. Actually, she did suffer a little injury on Divine Dragon Island. But those were not worth mentioning. Coupled with her strong recovery ability, there were almost no scars on her body at this time. Moreover, the situation inside was also quite good. Shengguan Jing saw that her complexion was indeed good and was relieved. That's good, that's good. Nan Suhui and Chu Ning also rushed over at this time. Nan Suhui first looked at Chu Luiyue and then looked at Rong Xiu. Are you all right? Rong Xiu nodded. Only then did Nan Suhui's hanging heart calm down. As long as he was here, there was no need to worry. How did you come out? Chu Ning asked. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1779. It's a long story. Let's return to the Yuntian Tower first and talk about it on the way. Chu Luiyue said. Shengguan Jing and the others saw that she and Rong Xiu seemed to be in good condition, so they nodded in agreement. The group went on their way back to the Yuntian Tower. On the way, Chu Luiyue briefly told them what had happened during this period of time. That's what happened. In the process of speaking, Chu Luiyue tried her best to be calm and left out many things. However, after she finished speaking, Shengguan Jing and the other two were still deeply shocked. After a short silence, the three of them asked in unison. You met the great Phoenix Dragon's genius, Mao Jin, 1,000 years ago and even helped him reconstruct his body? Not only was the great Phoenix Dragon's clan leader, Mao Yang, stripped of his position, but he was also crippled? You have a relationship with the great Phoenix Dragon's new clan leader, and he personally sent you out. It was no wonder that the three of them had so many questions. These things were too shocking. After all, the three of them had seen many big scenes. The fact that they had such a big reaction showed how terrifying the impact of these things was. But in reality, their reactions were very normal. Any one of the things that Chu Luiyue said just now would cause a huge uproar in the Divine Ruins world. However, when she told Rong Xiu about these things, her expression was too calm. It almost made people think that they did not take those things to heart. Faced with their questions, Chu Luiyue did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, she patiently explained them one by one. What I said just now is true. Otherwise, how could we leave Divine Dragon Island unscathed? The few of them were speechless and looked at each other. That was true. No matter how strong the two of them were, it was impossible for them to pass through the Divine Dragon Island's layers of barriers without anyone noticing. After a moment of silence, Nan Suhui could not help but shake his head and smile. I see. You guys have already thought of a way to leave. That's why you didn't come back through the teleportation formation. Chu Luiyue smiled apologetically. I'm sorry to have worried you, Master. Nan Suhui laughed, his face full of pride. What are you talking about? Master is happy for you. Our you is indeed outstanding. Was this something an ordinary person could do? Only the two of them could work together perfectly to achieve such a result. If this matter were to spread out, who knew how many jaws would drop, and how many people would be secretly envious and amazed? Nan Suhui was truly happy. After so many years, had also become stronger and stronger. Since the matter with the great Phoenix Dragon has been settled and you are friends with Mao Jin, you don't have to worry about the great Phoenix Dragon anymore. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. Shengguan Jing lamented as he looked at the two of them. This was definitely not an exaggeration, but an absolute fact. One had to know that in the world, there were countless sects and clans that wanted to climb up to the great Phoenix Dragon. Their strength was even more powerful than those first-rate families. However, the great Phoenix Dragon was an ancient divine beast. Like the crimson gold heavenly phoenix, It had always been extremely arrogant. It had never placed the human race in its eyes, nor did it have any dealings with them. These years, the Great Phoenix Dragon situation was slightly better, but it was obviously just a superficial relationship. There was no one who had close dealings with these two clans openly and fairly. Now, Chu Luiwei and Rong Xiu had obviously succeeded in building a relationship with Mao Jin. Moreover, it was a relationship that the other party was willing to help. How could they not be shocked? How could they not be happy? Chu Luiwei smiled and nodded. In fact, she felt the same way. Originally, because of Dumpling, she had always been biased against the Great Phoenix Dragon clan. She had never thought that she could coexist peacefully with the Great Phoenix Dragon clan. Moreover, the other party was the clan leader. It was already very difficult for an ordinary person to have a relationship with one of the two clans. Now, she had miraculously maintained a good relationship with both clans. Moreover, the two divine beasts she had contracted also had extremely close relations with the two clans. This was indeed not something that could be explained by the word luck. After the three of them calmed down a little, Chu Luiwei said, "By the way, there's another important matter when we return to the Yuntian Tower this time." At this point she paused. Shang Guanjing and the other two looked over. Chu Luiwei's red lips curled up slightly, and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Rong Xiu held her hand and smiled. "You and I have decided to get married directly when we return this time." The Nan clan, the entire mountain peak and the entire courtyard were cold and cheerless. The atmosphere was cold and stagnant, almost suffocating. Especially when they were close to the inner courtyard, this feeling became stronger. The servants were cautious, and even their breathing became cautious. This situation had been going on for a month. Ever since the clan leader brought the eldest young master and the second young miss back, it had been like this. Although the higher-ups had blocked the news, many people in the clan still vaguely guessed something. The eldest young master and the second young miss seemed to have suffered extremely serious injuries outside before returning. On the first day they arrived at the Nan clan, they called over all the celestial physicians in the clan. Several celestial physicians stayed in the room for 2 days and 2 nights. It was not until the morning of the third day that the elders came out one after another. However, their expressions were not very good. Some people secretly speculated that the two situation this time was not optimistic. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1780. In the room, Nanyi leaned against the head of the bed with a pale face. She was covered with a thick brocade quilt and her eyes were empty as she stared blankly ahead. She looked like she had lost her soul. Countless images flashed through her mind, but they also seemed to be blank. Nothing was left behind, only a blurry mass. A maidservant pushed open the door and came in, carefully handing over a small bowl made of blue and white bone. "Second miss, it's time to drink your medicine." Before she could finish her sentence, Nanny suddenly pulled out a whip from under the bed and ruthlessly whipped the maidservant's head. The servant girl couldn't dodge in time and was hit directly. A long scar extended from her scalp all the way to the corner of her mouth, easily cutting through her delicate and young face. Flesh and blood rolled and the stench was horrifying. The servant girl screamed in pain and the small bowl in her hand fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. She fell to the ground, and a few more shards pierced into her palm, causing her to bleed profusely. The pain was getting worse. She looked up in panic and fear and saw that Nanyi had looked over at some point. Her eyes were scarlet and terrifying, as sinister as a ghost. It was as if she wanted to cut her into pieces. The servant girl trembled violently and immediately stopped crying. She knelt on the ground and cried and begged. "Second miss, I know my mistake. I know my mistake." Actually, she really didn't know what she had done wrong to anger Second Mississippi. But Second Miss was angry and it was her fault. During this period of time, there had been rumors in the family that Second Miss's temperament had changed drastically after she returned. In the past, she was just spoiled and willful, but now, she had become unpredictable, irritable, and would take people's lives at the drop of a hat. In the month since she returned, 3 servants had already died in her hands. As for those who were injured, there were countless. She was afraid that she would be the one to be killed, so she ignored the pain on her body and desperately admitted her mistake to beg for mercy. But this servant girl didn't know that the more she acted like this, the worse Nanyi's mood became. The blood in Nanyi's eyes gathered rapidly and she almost went crazy. It's so noisy. Damn it. She clenched the whip in her hand and was about to strike again when the door was pushed open. Yi! Suddenly, a figure walked over quickly. It was Nan Yifan. Nan Yi stopped what she was doing. Nan Yifan quickly sized up the situation in the room, his brows furrowed. When he was walking outside just now, he heard a scream coming from inside the house. He immediately guessed that Nan Yi must have made a fuss again. True enough. He waved his hand at the maidservant. You can leave first. Recuperate well during this period of time. There's no need to serve me again. The maidservant immediately felt as if she had been pardoned and thanked him profusely before leaving. The room quickly quieted down again, leaving only a mess on the floor. Anger surged in Nan Yifan's chest and abdomen. When are you going to stop? 1 or 2 days would have been fine, but it had already been a month. It hasn't stopped yet. The entire Nan family was talking about this, and it was obvious that they were very dissatisfied with Nan Yi. Although Nan Yi was the second miss of the family, it didn't mean that she could do whatever she wanted in the Nan family. One had to know that he didn't have the final say in the Nan family. The elders and seniors were usually very polite to him, but if he did something wrong, he would also be punished. Not to mention Nanny. If this continued, how was he going to explain to the Nan family? Hearing the faint reprimand in his words, Nanny's eyes reddened and tears fell. She didn't argue and just lowered her head, allowing her tears to fall on the brocade quilt. Seeing her like this, Nan Yifan's heart softened again. After all, she was the apple of his eye that he had doted on for so many years. How could his heart not ache? She used to be so proud, so it was normal for her to find it hard to accept the current situation. Nan Yifan sighed and walked over to sit by the bed. Be good. Give me the whip. Nan Yi paused for a moment before she slowly handed the whip over. Nan Yifan had only wanted to leave the whip for her to protect herself, but now he would rather send more people outside than continue to leave the whip to Nanny. After taking the whip, Nan Yifan patted her hand gently and said earnestly, Don't worry. I know that you feel wronged and upset, but it's not a solution to go on like this, right? Those servants didn't do anything wrong in the first place. If you vent your anger on them, not only will it not help your condition at all, it will also cause the family to criticize you. He paused and a bitter expression appeared on his face. You know your elder brother's situation. Unless there is a miracle, he will be crippled for the rest of his life. This matter, other than a celestial physician that I trust, no one else in the family knows about it. How dare he say it? He had groomed Nan Yuxing for so many years and spent so much effort. In the end, he was crippled just like that. Moreover, he only had this one son. This also meant that the position of the head of the family would have to be passed to someone else in the future. The Nan family was huge and there were a total of 3 branches. The position of the head of the family was usually fought for by the people of these 3 branches. For so many years, he had groomed Nan Yuxing with all his might, hoping that he would become extremely outstanding. In this way, he would be able to pass the position to Nan Yuxing. If his bloodline couldn't make it, there would be plenty of people who wanted to replace him. There were countless people who secretly coveted the position of the head of the family. Of course, this was not what Nan Yifan wanted to see. Hearing this, Nan Yi's tears stopped. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and looked up at Nan Yifan. There was anger and indignation on her face. Of course, the position of the head of the family could only belong to them. But very quickly, her face was covered with a layer of defeat. So what if she was angry? So what if she was indignant? The news that her elder brother's Yuan meridian was crippled and he had become a cripple could be hidden for a while, but not forever. The people in the family would find out sooner or later. And the matter of her being mute, everyone thought that she was unwilling to speak because she was in a bad mood. But as time passed, they would definitely find out. At that time, the result would be even worse. And the culprit of all this was still living a carefree life. At that thought, Nan Yi held Nan Yifun's hand and looked at him anxiously. Nan Yifun immediately understood what she meant. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Don't think about this for now. You should recuperate first. Nan Yi flung his hand away as a desperate and strange smile appeared on her face. She had long guessed that her father did not intend to help them take revenge. He wanted them to swallow all the pain and torture. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1781. Nan Yifun felt a sharp pain in his heart when he saw the look in her eyes. He didn't want this to happen either. His own children were crippled. How could he not feel heartache and not want to avenge them? But the opponent was Rong Xiu. If they were in the right, he could still fight for it. But the truth was, most of the blame was on themselves. If Yi hadn't thought of snatching Rong Xiu from Shangguanyu at that time, if Yuxing hadn't provoked the other party time and time again in the god-slaying tomb, if they had immediately stopped when they sensed that something was wrong and stayed away from Rong Xiu and the rest, things wouldn't have turned out like this. But it was too late to say anything now. The air in the room seemed to have frozen. Nan Yi turned her head away and closed her eyes in despair. Obviously, she didn't want to continue talking to Nan Yifun. Nan Yifun felt very uncomfortable with such a resistant attitude. He had wanted to comfort her, but in the end, they parted on bad terms. He knew that it was useless to say anything now. After looking at Nan Yi for a while, he stood up. He pulled the blanket over Nan Yi, wanting to cover her, but Nan Yi snatched it away. Her actions were crisp and full of resistance. Nan Yifun's hand hung awkwardly in the air. He glanced at Nan Yi and sighed in his heart. His fingers curled up. I will get someone to send another bowl of medicine over. If you don't like these servants, you can get someone else to do it. Don't do this again in the future. With that, he turned around and left. When he reached the door, Nan Yifun paused. He placed a hand on the door and said without turning back, I know you don't take Yuntian Tower seriously, but Rong Xiu is indeed someone you can't afford to offend. There are some things you will understand in the future. With that, he pushed the door open and left. After a while, Nan Yi opened her eyes. The room was so silent that it almost made her panic. She turned back to look at the door and frowned. She had never seen her father so afraid of anyone. Could it be that Rong Xiu was hiding some secrets? But wasn't he the holy son of the Yuntian Tower? Nan Yi was silent for a long time. A trace of struggle flashed through her eyes, but in the end she still took out a green jade whistle. She placed the jade whistle next to her lips and blew hard. An extremely soft and sharp cry rang out. However, it also disappeared very quickly. Other than herself, almost no one else heard it. Even Nan Yifun, who had just left, did not notice. Nan Yifun put away the jade whistle and crossed his hands in front of him. He closed his eyes as if he was waiting for something. About a quarter of an hour later, someone came to deliver the medicine. Tuk tuk. Second miss, your medicine is ready. I'll do it. A man's deep voice rang out, interrupting the servant's words and taking the decoction directly. The manservant was feeling nervous, but when he saw who it was, he was overjoyed. Greetings, Elder Luo Yen. Then this medicine. I'll make sure Yi drinks it. You can leave first. Luo Yen had a high status, so the manservant naturally didn't dare to disobey his words. He didn't want to come at first. Who didn't know that most of the people who came to serve second miss recently had gotten into trouble? Now that there was someone helping, it couldn't be better. After bowing, the manservant left in a hurry. Luo Yen pushed the door open and entered. When Nan Yi saw him, a look of grievance appeared on her face and her tears fell again. Luo Yan's heart ached when he saw her like this. Why are you still so haggard? Is the medicine not effective? Because he was worried that it would arouse everyone's suspicions about her health, he had only come to see Nan Yi once since he returned. This was the second time. He thought that Nan Yi's health should be much better, but he didn't expect that after such a long time, there still didn't seem to be any improvement. Nan Yi shook her head. Luo Yan frowned even more and walked over to size Nanyi up carefully. Actually, Nanyi's injuries in the god-slaying tomb weren't fatal. Logically speaking, as long as she came back and recuperated, she should be able to recover. But after so long, Luo Yan looked at her red and swollen eyes and immediately understood something. Perhaps it was still the heart that was difficult to treat. Nanyi used to be very lively. Now that she couldn't speak, it was normal that she couldn't get over it for a long time. He sent the medicine over. No matter what, the most important thing is to take good care of your health. Nanyi nodded obediently and drank the medicine. The medicine was bitter, but her heart was even more bitter. Luo Yan's heart ached even more when he saw her obedient and silent appearance. Do you have something to say to me, or? He had specially left that jade whistle for Nanyi. As long as Nanyi blew it, he would be able to sense it immediately, but others wouldn't be able to hear it. This was the first time Nanyi had blown the whistle in the past month. Nanyi nodded, took out a pen and paper, wrote a few lines, and handed it to Luo Yan. Luo Yan took the paper and looked at it carefully. Then, he was shocked and looked at Nanyi with furrowed brows. No, I can't agree to it. With that, Luo Yan got up and was about to leave. You have to stay here and recuperate during this period of time. You can't go anywhere. Nanyi tugged at his sleeve and whimpered. Her eyes were filled with pleading. Luo Yan stopped in his tracks. He turned back and met Nanyi's tear-filled eyes. In the past, she often begged him for help like this. Every time he saw this pair of eyes that were very similar to her mother's, his heart would always soften. Even if she occasionally made a mistake, as long as she showed such an expression, he couldn't bear to scold her. But this time, Luo Yan sighed. This definitely won't do. Your injuries haven't healed yet. I can't agree to these things. Nanyi slowly let go and suddenly smiled. Desolate and desperate. Luo Yan's heart seemed to have been hit hard by something. After a long pause, he finally said, Okay, I promise you. Nanyi immediately looked up at him in surprise. In a moment of excitement, she pounced over and hugged Luo Yan's neck. She knew that at this time, the only person she could rely on was Uncle Luo Yan. Luo Yan's hand froze, but he quickly returned to normal and patted her back gently. Don't worry, I will protect you well. Nan Yifan naturally didn't know what was going on here. After leaving Nanyi's place, he wanted to go back to the study to calm down, but halfway there, he turned around and went to Nan Yuxing's place. Nan Yuxing lived in one of the most noble courtyards in the entire Nan family. In the past, this place had always been bustling with people coming and going. But now, it was cold and cheerless all the way. Other than the guards in charge of guarding, there was almost no one else here. Of course, this was because Nan Yifan had specially ordered that no one was allowed to approach this place and disturb Nan Yuxing's rest. He walked to the entrance of the courtyard. The two guards immediately bowed. Greetings, Patriarch. Nan Yifan nodded. How is eldest young master? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1782. The two guards looked at each other. My lord, everything is normal. Nan Yifan asked again. Did anyone come in the past 2 days? The two guards shook their heads. No one else came except for Elder Nan Yi. Elder Nan Yi was the celestial physician that Nan Yifan trusted the most. He was also the only one who knew about Nan Yuxing's condition other than the people in the god-slaying tomb. After they returned, Nan Yifan handed Nan Yuxing to him. However, a month had passed. Although Nan Yuxing's external injuries had mostly healed, there was still no improvement on his internal injuries. It was difficult to repair a damaged yuan meridian. Nan Yifan lifted his foot and walked inside. It was noon and the sun was shining brightly. Nan Yifan pushed the door open and entered without knocking. As soon as he entered, a strong and bitter smell of medicine rushed to his nose, almost suffocating him. Nan Yifan frowned and looked around. The windows were all locked and the whole room looked gloomy. The faint smell of blood mixed with the bitter smell of medicine was very uncomfortable. Sunlight poured in through the door and tore apart the dead silence, but it could not dispel the aura of death. Nan Yifan walked in. Walking around the screen, he saw Nan Yuxing lying on the bed. Nan Yuxing's condition was worse than Nanny's. At this moment, he was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. His face was pale and haggard. His face was unshaven and his lips were cracked. Blood vessels could be seen vaguely. His originally handsome face was now a sickly color, and his cheeks were deeply sunken. His breath was weak, like an old man with one foot in the grave. There was no trace of the arrogance of the young master of the Nan family. Hearing Nan Yifun's voice, Nan Yuxing's eyes moved, but he did not open them. Nan Yifun walked over and stood by the bed. He stared at him for a long time before saying, "Do you plan to continue like this?" Nan Yuxing's eyelashes fluttered and he finally opened his eyes with difficulty. However, he did not look at Nan Yifun. He just stared at the ceiling. His eyes were dead and filled with despair and mockery. After a long while, he spoke with a hoarse voice. "What else can I do?" He was already crippled. His originally limitless future had now turned into a bottomless abyss. What was the point of living? In this world, there was nothing that could destroy a person's willpower more than falling from the clouds into a quagmire. Nan Yuxing was the same. Ever since he was young, he had been the pride of the heavens and had been chased by everyone, enjoying the limelight. In a single night, he had become a cripple. Everything that had happened in the past had become a thing of the past. How could he bear it? Nan Yifun paused. "Elder Nanyi has been searching for a way to help you recover your Yuan meridian." Nan Yuxing suddenly laughed. His voice was extremely soft and sarcastic. "Father, if Elder Nanyi really has a way, why would he wait until now?" No one knew the state of his body better than he did. His Yuan meridian was completely broken and could not be repaired. Most of the things he said were just words of comfort. In reality, his heart was already dead. Nan Yifun was at a loss for words. He could tell that this was a huge blow to Nan Yuxing. If they didn't have a feasible solution, Nan Yuxing might not be able to survive. The room was silent. Nan Yuxing suddenly asked, "Father, after a while, the entire Nan family will know that I have become a cripple, right?" Nan Yifun frowned. Every word in this sentence made him feel incomparably uncomfortable. "It's all because your son is useless. I have wasted all your efforts over the years." Nan Yuxing laughed at himself. After a moment of silence, he finally turned his head and looked at Nan Yifun. "Father, I want to ask you for a favor." Nan Yifun stepped forward and nodded. "Just say it." Nan Yuxing's expression became a little strange. Instead of dragging out an ignoble existence like this, becoming a cripple and being mocked by others, it's better to just die. Nan Yifun's pupils contracted. Nan Yuxing did not seem to notice the change in his father's expression and continued. "Those people are unreliable. Why don't you do it yourself? Today, in the future, to the outside world, you can just say that I died from serious injuries, or any other reason will do. Anyway, as long as you don't say that I have become a cripple." The more Nan Yuxing spoke, the brighter his eyes became. He seemed to think that this was a good idea. That excited and even expectant expression made Nan Yifun feel a chill in his heart. "Yuxing, what nonsense are you talking about?" Nan Yifun shouted harshly. Nan Yifun didn't care about his anger at all, and even laughed in a low voice. "You know it too, don't you? If I live like this, I will only become a pitiful and laughable cripple. What's the point of that? It was better to die now." When people talked about him, they would say, "It's a pity that he died young." Nan Yuxing really regretted it. Back in the god-slaying tomb, he should have just killed himself. Why did he have to come back and bear all this? Looking at his son's fervent and crazy face, Nan Yifun suddenly could not reprimand him. It was as if something was stuck in his chest, making him feel very uncomfortable. After a long silence, he suddenly said, "Don't worry, Father will help you think of a way." With that, he turned and left. Nan Yuxing looked at his back that disappeared outside the door. The smile on his face gradually faded, and a trace of defeat and self-mockery appeared in his eyes. Since they had already reached such a state, what else could they do? The two guards in charge of guarding the courtyard heard footsteps and looked back. When they saw Nan Yuxing come out so quickly, they were surprised. How long had the family had been in there? It hasn't even been a quarter of an hour, right? He came out so quickly? When Nan Yifan walked closer, they realized that his face was rather ugly. The two looked at each other, then quickly retracted their gazes and waited respectfully. Nan Yifan walked over. When he passed by the two, his footsteps paused. During this period, you must keep a close watch on the eldest young master. If anything happens to the eldest young master, both of you will be buried with him. The two were shocked and quickly responded, "Yes." Only then did Nan Yifan leave. Nan Yifan returned to the study with a heavy heart and sat alone for a long time. In the Divine Ruins world, there was indeed a top figure who might be able to help Nan Yuxing repair his Yuan Meridian. But that person was not easy to get along with and had a very strange temper. Even if he personally went, he might not be able to persuade him. If he had any other choice, he would not want to have anything to do with him. But when he thought of Nan Yuxing begging him to end his life, Nan Yifan did not care about anything else. After struggling for a long time, when dusk fell, the afterglow of the setting sun shone in through the window. A trace of determination flashed in his eyes, and he finally stood up. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1783. Invite Elder Nan Yi and Elder Wu Peng over. Nan Yifan ordered the people outside. The two elders quickly rushed over and entered the study one after another. Nan Yifan was writing something on the table. "Master." The two elders bowed together. Nan Yifan nodded and didn't stop writing. The two elders tactfully waited in silence. About half an hour later, Nan Yifan finally stopped writing. He picked up the paper and read it carefully before looking at the two elders in front of him. "I invited the two elders here today because I have something important to discuss." Nan Yifan went straight to the point. "I plan to go out for a trip. It will take about 10 days. During this time, I'll leave everything in the family to the two of you." The two elders were astonished. Elder Nan Yi asked, "Where are you going, Master? Is it going to take that long?" Nan Yifan was very strong and could travel quickly. Under normal circumstances, even if he wanted to go out for business, it wouldn't take more than 10 days. Moreover, the Nan family was in an extremely sensitive and critical period. If he left now and something happened, Yuxing's condition can't be delayed any longer. I know someone who might have a way, and I plan to ask him personally. If he can cure Yuxing's illness, that would be the best. If not, then I'll have no regrets. Elder Nan Yi was even more surprised. There's such a person in the world? He was a celestial physician, an extremely powerful existence among celestial physicians. However, he was still helpless in the face of Nan Yuxing's condition. Someone who could cure Nan Yuxing? Wouldn't that be better than him? That was a person who only existed in rumors. If you can really ask this person to cure eldest young master's illness, that would be great. Elder Wu Peng wasn't so optimistic. He glanced at Nan Yifan and saw that he didn't look relaxed. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Master, is this person very difficult to ask?" Nan Yifan smiled bitterly and nodded. It wasn't just difficult to ask, there were many other troubles. This was also why he didn't choose this path when Nan Yuxing was first crippled. If it wasn't for Nan Yuxing's words today, he wouldn't have done it no matter what. Now, there was really no other way. Yuxing and Yi's situation isn't very good right now. Many people in the clan are watching them. You must pay more attention. Before I return, you must not reveal their situation to anyone. Furthermore, my whereabouts this time around are to be kept a secret. If anyone asks, just tell them that I'm in closed-door training. The two elders answered and saluted. "Rest assured, Patriarch." Only then did Nan Yifan feel relieved. He handed the piece of paper he had written earlier to Elder Wu Peng. "If someone discovers that something is wrong and I haven't returned in time, Wu Peng, you will take over the responsibility of the Patriarch. This handwritten letter will be kept as a keepsake." Elder Wu Peng's expression froze. At this point, he had a faint premonition that Nan Yifan's trip would be very dangerous. He took the letter with both hands, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Patriarch, since this trip is dangerous, then, should we add more people?" "That's not necessary." Nan Yifan lightly waved his hand. A bright teleportation formation suddenly appeared in the middle of the study. He lifted his foot and walked over. "I'll handle this matter myself. You just have to stay here and watch over everything." Seeing that he had made up his mind, the two elders didn't try to persuade him. "Farewell, Patriarch." Nan Yifan nodded. The next moment, light flashed. The teleportation formation slowly rotated. Nan Yifan's figure soon disappeared. Yuntian Tower. Everyone had received the news in advance that the Holy Sun would return with the princess today. Thus, the elders had gathered in the ethereal hall early in the morning and were waiting. Everyone looked out of the hall from time to time. Previously, the Holy Sun said that he would go to the Phoenix God Mountain to bring the princess back. Why did it take so long? Speaking of which, it's strange. Wasn't the princess always in Ling Shao Academy? Why did she suddenly go to the Phoenix God Mountain? That's because the princess and the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan have a lot of conflicts. Don't you know that the princess has contracted with a Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix? Hiss. Are you serious? Didn't they say that ancient divine beasts don't contract with humans? Then, the princess's Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix is? Actually, I don't know if the princess is too lucky or too unlucky. Her Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix is actually the Crimson-tailed Phoenix from before. There are so many Crimson-tailed Phoenixes in the world, but there are very few who can advance further. It has to be said that this is an opportunity that ordinary people can only envy. But this is where the trouble lies. If it was another divine beast, there wouldn't be any problem. But what kind of existence was the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix? For so many years, they had almost never interacted with humans. How could they let this matter go so easily? That's true. It seems that the Scarlet Gold Heavenly Phoenix clan's patriarch, Yizhao, personally wrote a letter to the Spirit Firmament Academy, asking the princess to personally visit. His Highness the Holy Sun went down for so long before returning. In other words, the Holy Sun must have paid a heavy price to help Shangguanyu this time. Everyone discussed animatedly. Most of them had the same opinion about this matter. After all, the Great Void Phoenix Dragon clan was famous for being arrogant and prideful. Especially Yizhao, he was very difficult to deal with. It wasn't surprising that they would think this way. 36 respected Elder Ming sat in his seat and leaned against the back of the chair. He listened to the various discussions with a relaxed expression. Since the Holy Sun has brought the princess back, it means that the matter has been successfully resolved. What's there to worry about? The hall fell silent for a moment. That was true, but who knew what the inside story was? Someone asked. 36 respected Elder Ming, aren't you worried at all? That Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan is not to be trifled with. 36 respected Elder Ming laughed out loud. So what? Don't forget that the princess's Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix has been with her since a few years ago. It's just a coincidence that it broke through now. Even if the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan wants to do something, they have to be reasonable, right? Besides, the Holy Sun and the princess aren't ordinary people. How can they be bullied by them? These words were really irrefutable. The person who asked the question still wanted to say something, but he was stopped by the person next to him. Don't ask. 36 respected Elder Ming is famous for being protective of our princess consort. Even if there's really any trouble because of this, he won't say anything bad about the princess. Hearing this, that person swallowed the rest of his words. At this moment, someone hurried in from outside. 36 respected Elder Ming, Shangguanyu is here. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1784. The hall instantly fell silent. Quite a few people looked surprised. Shangguanyu? Who is that? It sounds like he's from the princess consort's side. 36 respected Elder Ming's eyes lit up, and he stood up. Hurry up and invite him in. The guards retreated respectfully. Only the people in the hall were left looking at each other. Respected Elder Pure Dust probed. 36 Respected Elder Ming, this Shangguan Yu, may I know who he is? 36 Respected Elder Ming chuckled. He is the princess consort's father. Everyone understood. It was indeed that person from the Tianling dynasty. But why did he suddenly invite him over? Suddenly, someone seemed to have thought of something. Could it be that His Highness is planning to hold a grand wedding? 36 Respected Elder Ming stroked his beard with a smile. This was a tacit agreement. Many people were stunned on the spot, and it took them a while to react. Actually, it was indeed time for His Highness to hold a grand wedding. After all, it had been a long time since the princess consort selection. During this time, His Highness had mentioned a few times that he wanted to hold a grand wedding, but it was delayed by various things. As a result, everyone gradually forgot about this matter. Now that they suddenly heard it, it was inevitable that they would be surprised. No wonder the princess consort's father was invited. Since their daughter was getting married, their parents naturally had to come. Soon, an unfamiliar figure appeared outside the hall. The guard's voice sounded. Everyone turned to look at him. Most of them were curious about what the princess consort's family was like. Shangguan Yu came to the front of the hall and looked up. The ethereal hall. It was grand and dignified. Even before they entered, they could already feel a heavy pressure pressing down on them silently. Shangguan Yu recalled what he had seen and heard along the way, and he still felt like he was in a dream. This was the place where Yu was now? Shangguan Yu had heard of the Divine Ruins world, and later, he learned a lot about it, including the Yuntian Tower. He knew that any sect in the Divine Ruins world was stronger than the Tianling dynasty. Among them, the Yuntian Tower was one of the best. However, when he really arrived here, he realized that everything was even more. For a moment, Shangguan Yu did not know what words to use to describe his inner feelings. He only felt that something was surging between his chest and abdomen. Lord Shangguan, all the revered elders are waiting inside, please. With a warm smile on his face, Yuemo politely and respectfully invited Shangguan Yu in. Although Shangguan Yu was the Tianling emperor, they were currently in the Divine Ruins world, so it was naturally inappropriate for him to address him as such. After thinking for a while, Shangguan Yu took the initiative to suggest that he should call himself that. In any case, it was just a title. The most important thing was to come and see you. Shangguan Yu nodded and walked into the main hall. The moment Shangguan Yu came in, countless eyes fell on him. He looked to be in his 40s and wore a navy blue brocade robe. Although there were traces of age on his face, it still couldn't hide the handsomeness and elegance of his youth. Shangguan Yu's appearance was indeed somewhat similar to his. Most importantly, he exuded an extraordinary aura. Even though he came from outside the Divine Ruins world, he was still able to walk calmly in the ethereal hall where experts gathered. Many people thought to themselves, the people of the Shangguan family all seem to have such vigor? Be it Shangguan Yu or the current Shangguan Yu, they didn't seem to know what fear and cowardice were. People outside of the Divine Ruins world, even if they were born as monarchs, would often show some cowardice and fear when facing them. However, Shangguan Yu was different. Lord Shangguan, you're finally here. 36 esteemed Elder Ming stood up and walked over with a smile. Shangguan Yu swiftly assessed the situation in the main hall and determined that the old man before him was the one with the highest standing in the hall. Sensing the other party's goodwill and welcome, Shangguan Yu felt slightly relieved. He immediately bowed with a smile. Paying respects to 36 esteemed Elder Ming. 36 esteemed Elder Ming was surprised. You recognize me? He didn't remember meeting Shangguan Yu before. Shangguan Yu nodded with a smile. Yuemo mentioned it on the way here. I noticed that you have an extraordinary disposition, so I thought that it should be you. Everyone present could tell that he was trying to curry favor with Shangguan Yu. But so what? 36 esteemed Elder Ming was an esteemed figure. Even those from the Yuntian Tower had to be respectful to him, let alone Shangguan Yu, an outsider from the Divine Ruins world. Besides, 36 esteemed Elder Ming was an extremely picky person. He wouldn't be interested in just anyone trying to curry favor with him. Ha! Lord Shangguan is too polite. 36 esteemed Elder Ming burst into laughter upon hearing those words. Clearly, he was very pleased with Sheng Guanyu's words. This also meant that his attitude toward Sheng Guanyu was very friendly. Many people exchanged glances with one another. It seemed like 36 esteemed Elder Ming really thought highly of Princess Yu. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given Sheng Guanyu so much face. The inceptive sage and Princess Yu are currently rushing back, and they should be back today. Lord Shangguan, do you want to wait for them together? 36 esteemed Elder Ming knew that Sheng Guanyu must be worried about his daughter, so he took the initiative to explain. Only then did Sheng Guanyu understand. No wonder they hadn't seen you, or even though they had been here for so long. So it's because she hasn't returned yet? He nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you, 36 esteemed Elder Ming laughed. What's so troublesome about this? Lord Shangguan, just follow me. 36 esteemed Elder Ming actually brought Sheng Guanyu to the innermost part of the hall and pointed to the first seat on the right. Lord Shangguan, please take a seat. Sheng Guanyu hesitated for a moment. I'm afraid this isn't appropriate, right? In this hall, the chairs were divided into two sides. 36 esteemed Elder Ming sat on the first seat on the left. He asked him to sit on the first seat on the right. 36 esteemed Elder Ming said, "You're the Princess Yu's father, and your status is honorable. Naturally, you can sit on this seat. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network." Chapter 1785. Hearing those words, Sheng Guanyu pondered for a moment before taking a seat. He vaguely knew a little about Rong Xiu's background. Even though he was the holy son of the Yuntian Tower, he had lost his parents. Only 36 esteemed Elder Ming could be considered his elder and kin. No one was more qualified than 36 esteemed Elder Ming to sit in this position. As for himself, it was because of Yuer. Yuemo stood behind Sheng Guanyu and introduced the people in the hall one by one. Sheng Guanyu greeted them one by one. On the way here, Yuemo had told him many things about the Yuntian Tower, including the temperament of the elders, their likes and dislikes, and so on. As such, even though this was Sheng Guanyu's first time here, he was very considerate in every aspect, making it impossible for anyone to find fault with him. Some people originally wanted to find out something from Sheng Guanyu, but they were all solved by Sheng Guanyu with little effort. It was only then that everyone realized that even though Sheng Guanyu was born outside of the Divine Ruins world, his wits and means were on par with those present. After a round of banter, the crowd gradually calmed down. Everyone began to wait for the return of Rong Xiu and the others. At the foot of Bright Reversal Peak, a few young men and women were descending the mountain. Each of them was carrying a dark green wine jar in their arms. 36 esteemed Elder Ming sure is picky. The ethereal hall has already stored the wine, but he still wants us to retrieve it from the clear Jiuquan. The wine of the clear Jiuquan was extraordinary. It had to be stored in specially made wine jars, and it couldn't be stored in a universe ring. It had to be carried on one's shoulders. The few trips had depleted quite a bit of their origin energy. A tall and thin young man wiped the sweat off his forehead. This was already his second trip to retrieve the wine. A round-faced woman beside him harumphed. "It's because the elders think highly of us that they allowed us to go. Otherwise, given our standing, it would be difficult for us to even enter the ethereal hall. I heard that it's beneficial to our cultivation." "What benefits?" "He's just trying to coax you." The tall and skinny man interrupted her impatiently, his face full of disapproval. "If revered elder is really thinking for us, why don't you just give us some good pills or divine tools? Which one isn't stronger than this one?" In his opinion, this was just hard work to serve others. The round-faced woman wasn't convinced, but she couldn't argue with him. After all, this was her first time doing this, so she wasn't sure if it was really beneficial to her cultivation. She paused for a moment before saying, even if there are no benefits, this is what we should do. His Highness, the Holy Sun, and the Princess Consort are coming back today, and there are also important guests. Of course, the wine has to be the best. Honored guest? Are you talking about that Sheng Guanyu? The tall and thin man laughed. Haven't you noticed that he's just a demigod? He's not even a true god-level expert. How could such a person become a distinguished guest of our Yuntian Tower if it wasn't for his great luck and the princess's blessing? The disdain in his voice was undisguised. The round-faced woman didn't expect his words to be so direct and unpleasant. She was stunned for a moment. A moment later, she stammered. But he's still the princess consort's father. Don't you think it's inappropriate for you to say that? What's inappropriate about it? Aren't I speaking the truth? The tall and thin man lifted the wine jar in his hand and sneered. In the world of gods, the strong are respected. He doesn't have the strength to back it up, so no one will think highly of him. Do you think that all of the elders in the ethereal hall are respectful toward him? I dare say that most of them don't think much of Shangguanyu at all. The round-faced woman was rendered speechless. Those words were unpleasant to the ears, but they made sense. The reason why they were so polite was because of the Holy Son and the princess consort. However, if one were to talk about the Holy Son of the ethereal hall, there were only a handful of them who truly acknowledged and welcomed him. The other woman who had been silent all this while spoke up. No matter how strong he is, he's still the princess consort's father. Regardless of how powerful he is, his standing in our Yuntian Tower won't be low. Besides, the Holy Son is married to Miss Shangguan. No matter what, Miss Shangguan is outstanding in all aspects. She was beautiful, and her words were gentle. Hearing her words, the tall and thin man's expression softened significantly. You're right. Actually, I just feel that. Your Highness, marrying this consort is still a little. He paused for a moment. There are many noble ladies in the world of gods who admire our Holy Son. If we can form a marriage alliance with them, the situation will be very different. The smile on the woman's face remained unchanged. Our princess consort is also outstanding, isn't she? That senior Shangguan Jing is a supremacy blacksmith. A supremacy blacksmith is indeed formidable, but compared to those sects with deep foundations, the tall and thin man shook his head. He didn't finish his words, but the meaning behind his words was clear. The round-faced woman glanced at the two of them and said hesitantly, "But I heard from the revered elders that other than Shangguanyu, the Holy Son has invited many of the princess consort's friends to his wedding. His Highness values the princess consort a lot." The tall and thin man didn't think much of it. The princess consort has no foundation in the world of gods. Naturally, he has to invite more people to make it more lively. Otherwise, wouldn't the scene be unbearable? The beautiful woman smiled. That's enough. These are not things we can discuss. It's fine to talk about it in private, but don't let others hear it. Let's go. If we wait any longer, we won't have time to get the wine. After saying that, she took the lead and walked forward. The remaining two didn't say anything else and followed behind her. After their figures gradually disappeared into the distance, the void fluctuated and a figure walked out. She was wearing a red dress, and her figure was slender and exquisite. Her black hair hung down, which made her snow-white face even more beautiful. It was Chu Luiwei. She looked in the direction where those people left and raised her eyebrows slightly, revealing a mysterious smile. It seemed that many people in the Yuntian Tower had such thoughts. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1786. Originally, she had come back with Rong Xiu and the others. However, after hearing the news that her father had arrived, she decided to go back and change her clothes before going to meet him. During this period of time, she had been busy running around. Although there weren't any injuries on her body, she still looked a little travel-worn. This was the first time she wanted to meet her father in the Divine Ruins world. Naturally, she wanted to show her best appearance so that her father could be at ease. She didn't expect that the moment she arrived, she would hear those people mention her and her father. She simply set up a barrier and hid. Just like that, she listened to their conversation. "Ah, you?" Dumpling asked in her heart. "Aren't you angry that they said that about you?" When she heard those words just now, she almost couldn't help but rush out. Chu Luiwei chuckled. "What's there to be angry about? They're telling the truth." She was very clear about what kind of place the Divine Ruins world was. Here, the strong preyed on the weak, and the strong were respected. She wasn't from an aristocratic family, so there was nothing to argue about. Even if there was a Taizu now, the Taizu had always been working alone. Although they had made an extremely high reputation, it was difficult for two fists to fight against four hands. Just relying on the Taizu alone, they couldn't support the Shangguan family. The sects and families that were able to establish themselves in the Divine Ruins world all had top-notch god-level experts in their ancestors. Furthermore, they had passed down the power of their bloodline from generation to generation. They had a deep accumulation and foundation. Indeed, they couldn't be compared to them. Hearing Chu Liyue's words, Dumpling snorted angrily. I don't care. They said that about you, so they should be punished. I've already memorized their voices. The next time I see them, I'll definitely teach them a lesson. She wasn't even afraid of Grandpa Patriarch, so why would she be afraid of these people? Chu Liyue's brows twitched slightly. She really liked Dumpling's ability to hold grudges. However, Dumpling, I know you can beat 1, 2, or even 3 of them. But can you beat more than that? Dumpling was stunned. There must be a lot of people in Yuntian Tower who think this way. Even if we take care of a few of them, it still won't change their minds. Dumpling hesitated. Then what should we do? Chu Liyue raised his head slightly and looked at Du Ming Peak. Gazing upward, Zhang Xian could already see the majestic ethereal hall. Needless to say, almost all the important figures in the Yuntian Tower were gathered there. Her eyes flickered as if thousands of stars were sprinkling down, and the light was fragmented. If you want them to acknowledge your position, the only way is to become stronger than them. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded. You, Chu Liyue turned around and saw that Rong Xiu had unknowingly appeared behind her. He had also changed into a snow-white robe, even though his previous set was also very clean. Have you been waiting for long? Previously, they had agreed to meet here. Chu Liyue shook her head with a smile. No, I just arrived. Rong Xiu walked closer. Standing here, he could even smell the faint fragrance of her body after bathing. When he lowered his eyes slightly, he could see her beautiful face. Under her smooth and full forehead were 2 fan-like thick and long eyelashes. Her nose was tall and straight, and he could vaguely see her cherry lips. After this period of running around, she seemed to have slimmed down, but her figure seemed to have become more slender, tall, and exquisite. Unknowingly, the youthful aura of a young girl had already disappeared. She was like a flower that was gradually blooming, gradually revealing her beauty and brilliance. Just a glance was enough to make one's heart waver. She was becoming more and more similar to her previous appearance, Rong Xiu. At this moment, Shangguan Jing and the others had also rushed over. Earlier, Rong Xiu had specially arranged a place for them to tidy up. Thus, at this moment, the 3 of them were no longer haggard, and they looked much more energetic. Rong Xiu's lips curled up. Since everyone is here, let's head to the ethereal hall together. His Highness Inceptive Sage has arrived. His Highness Consort has arrived. Everyone who was waiting in the ethereal hall could not help but widen their eyes in shock. Everyone turned their gazes toward the entrance. 2 figures were walking in side by side. The man on the left was dressed in a snow-white robe. He had a tall figure and a seductive appearance. However, he exuded an indescribable elegance that made one subconsciously look up to him. The woman standing by his side wore a red dress that fluttered in the wind. She was slender, tall, and peerlessly beautiful. She clearly had an extremely beautiful and exquisite appearance, yet her eyes were clear, and penetrating. She faintly carried a piercingly cold heroic aura, and it was especially eye-catching. The 2 of them walked side by side against the light, and they appeared before everyone's eyes together. A faint layer of light shrouded their bodies. At a glance, it was as though 2 immortals had arrived hand in hand. What a pair! At this moment, everyone in the hall couldn't help but be impressed. Putting everything aside, just in terms of appearance and disposition, the 2 of them were indeed a perfect match. Just looking at them like this was enough to delight one's eyes. 36 esteemed Elder Ming was the first to react. He stood up with a smile and walked over to greet them. Welcome back, Your Highness Inceptive Sage and Princess Consort. As soon as he moved, everyone immediately reacted and bowed as well. We welcome back, Your Highness Inceptive Sage and Princess Consort. Chu Liuyue's gaze skipped over these people and landed on the figure at the deepest part of the hall. She couldn't be any more familiar with that figure and that appearance. Shang Guanyu stood up and wanted to walk over, but he realized that his heart was pounding furiously. His legs had stiffened, and he was unable to move at all. His eyes were fixated on the face that he had been thinking about day and night. With trembling lips, he finally managed to call out. Where? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 1787. Chu Liuyue's eyes stung as she walked over quickly. Father! Seeing that she had moved, Shang Guanyu hurried over. The father and daughter were speechless when they saw each other. Shang Guanyu looked at her from head to toe, and something seemed to be surging in his eyes. After a while he said, You've lost weight. Thousands of words condensed in his chest, but his throat was extremely dry. In the end, he could only say such a short sentence. There was a slight tremor in his voice. Chu Liuyue blinked, and the tears in her eyes disappeared. She smiled brightly. Long time no see. Father, how are you? Shang Guanyu hurriedly said. Good. Father, everything is fine. Ling is also fine. I just miss you. How could he not miss her? When they parted last time, he thought that she would only stay in the world of divine ruins for a short period of time and would return soon. Who knew that so much time had passed in the blink of an eye? She didn't go back, but he came here. Is it too hard for you here? Shang Guanyu looked at her face, which had obviously lost a little weight, and his heart ached. Chu Liuyue smiled like a flower. Father, you're worrying too much. Look at me, my strength has increased a lot. Shang Guanyu noticed that her aura had indeed increased a lot compared to when they parted. You've broken through to the high god level? Shang Guanyu asked in shock. Chu Liuyue nodded and then took his hand. It's a long story. I'll explain it to you in detail when we have time later. Her father knew almost nothing about everything that had happened to her in the world of divine ruins. He didn't know that she had broken through to the high god level when she came to the world of divine ruins a few years ago. She didn't tell her father before because she was afraid that he would be worried. But now, it was indeed time to tell him. Shang Guanyu nodded vigorously. I'll listen to you. As long as you're willing to tell me, I'm willing to listen. Chu Liuyue's heart warmed. At this time, Rong Xiu also came forward and saluted Shang Guanyu. I haven't formally introduced myself to you before. Junior Rong Xiu, the holy son of the Yuntian Tower, greets Lord Shangguan. Rong Xiu's attitude was very respectful and polite. Shang Guanyu looked at him with emotion. In fact, he already knew that Rong Xiu's identity was unusual, but he didn't expect it to be even more shocking than he expected. The ruler of a first-rate family, the famous war god of the divine ruins world. In the past, he only thought that Rong Xiu was gentle, polite, and had an extraordinary temperament. No matter what situation he encountered, he was always calm and collected. Now that he saw Rong Xiu again, Shang Guanyu finally realized that Rong Xiu's calm aura was the reason for his strong abilities. How could an ordinary person have such an aura? I'll have to trouble you to take care of you, during this period. Shang Guanyu said. Rong Xiu chuckled. This is what Rong Xiu should do. Of course, he would protect his woman. Shang Guanyu breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, he was a little worried that the gap between their identities was a little big, but judging from Rong Xiu's attitude, he didn't have to worry about this. You didn't misjudge him. At this moment, another announcement was heard. Everyone in the hall turned their heads and saw 3 figures walking towards them. Many people knew the one at the front. It was the famous Shangguan Jing. The old man beside him had white hair and a sage-like demeanor. The aura on his body was also not to be underestimated. It was the dean of Lingshao College, Nan Suhuai. Nan Suhuai was very famous, but not many people had seen him before. After all, only a few people in the entire Yuntian Tower had been to Lingxiao College. In the past few years, Nan Suhuai had disappeared without a trace. He hadn't appeared much, so there were even fewer people who knew him. Many people were surprised. As the dean of Lingxiao College, Nan Suhuai had always maintained a neutral attitude. He rarely went to other aristocratic families in the Divine Ruins world. But now, he had come directly to Yuntian Tower. Did he come for Shangguanyu? Some people glanced at the red-clothed woman standing in the middle of the hall. They had heard that Shangguanyu was actually Nan Suhuai's personal disciple. Moreover, Nan Suhuai valued and doted on her a lot. Now it seemed that the rumors were true. Nan Suhuai came to Yuntian Tower for her without hesitation. His appearance with Shangguanjing was enough to show his position. He was here to support Shangguanyu. The people in the hall exchanged greetings with Shangguanjing and Nan Suhuai one after another. However, when they saw the third person, they were surprised and at a loss. Who is this person? Chu Ning frowned slightly when he sensed those sizing up gazes, but he quickly returned to normal. Indeed, he was the person with the lowest background here. If it wasn't for you, he wouldn't even have the chance to go to the Tianling dynasty, let alone come to the Divine Ruins world and be in the same room with people from a first-rate aristocratic family like Yuntian Tower. If it was in the past, he might have been nervous and perturbed when facing this situation. But now he wasn't. He had experienced too much during this period of time. Countless pain and torture couldn't make him bow his head. Now, this was just a small matter. He had to admit that although those nightmarish days had brought him deep pain, it had indeed caused him to change greatly from the inside out. He had never thought of that before, but now, he felt that it was just SOS. Because of this, Chu Ning's attitude was exceptionally magnanimous. He stood beside Shangguanjing and Nan Suhuai. Although his aura couldn't be compared to theirs, his calm attitude didn't lose out at all. Someone couldn't help but whisper, "Strange, he's just a stage 1 warrior. How can he have such an aura?" A stage 1 warrior was even worse than many children in Yuntian Tower. However, his expression was magnanimous as if he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Many people heard this. Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows slightly. Perhaps because he was afraid of Rong Xiu and the others, the person who spoke was actually quite polite. However, it was hard to say what he was thinking. Chu Luiwei was calm and composed, and she wasn't angry. She knew what these people were really thinking, and she also understood why they had such a reaction. But there was nothing to be concerned about. Chu Ning had the indestructible divine body. As long as he cultivated well, he would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. At that time, many of the people here would probably be defeated by him. "Father, let me introduce you." Chu Luiwei pulled Shangguanyu over. "Since you know Taizu, I won't say much. This is the dean of Lingxiao College and also my master. And this is my father when I was in Yaochen." Her words sounded a little awkward. Shangguanyu looked enlightened. "You are Chu Ning?" Chu Ning also understood the identity of the person in front of him when he heard Chu Luiwei address him. His heart tightened slightly. "Yes." Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1788. Chu Ning had been able to remain calm in the face of so many people's scrutiny and doubts. However, he suddenly became nervous when facing Shangguanyu. He was nervous mainly because Shangguanyu's identity was too special. He was Yu Er's father. He had thought about this when he found out about Yu Er's real identity. Now that they met, he realized that it was more awkward than expected. Chu Ning didn't know what identity he should use to face Shangguanyu. However, when Shangguanyu heard that, he suddenly took half a step back and bowed deeply to Chu Ning. Chu Ning was shocked and hurriedly said, "No." Shangguanyu's status was higher than his, and he was Yu Er's real father. He really didn't dare to accept this bow. However, Shangguanyu was very insistent. He stood up and sincerely said after he finished bowing, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Chu Ning, thank you for taking care of Yu Er previously." He knew that many things had happened to Yu Er when she was in Yaochen. If not for Chu Ning's protection, you would have suffered a lot. When he was lying unconscious in the Tianling Palace, it was Chu Ning who gave you a home. His heart was filled with endless gratitude towards Chu Ning. Chu Ning's emotions surged when he heard these words. He didn't expect Shang Guanyu to think this way. He thought that, Chu Ning, it's your blessing to have a father like you. Shang Guanyu said sincerely. Chu Ning was shocked and suddenly looked up at Shang Guanyu. What he meant was, seeing Chu Ning's expression, Chu Luiyue seemed to have something surging in her heart and almost drowning her. She held Chu Ning's hand and said, Father, I've already told Father before that no matter who I am, I'm still your daughter. She had occupied the real Chu Luiyue's body and received the fatherly love that should have belonged to that girl. Therefore, she was Chu Ning's daughter. It didn't matter if she was Chu Luiyue or Shang Guanyu. The porridge that he had cooked for her, the constant concern for her, the courage and determination to protect her time and time again, that was enough. She was Father's daughter and you. Chu Ning's heart seemed to be choked by something. He looked at Chu Luiyue and then at Shang Guanyu. Their expressions were so sincere that he almost thought he was in a dream. He had once thought that he would lose you, but in the end, Father, don't you want you anymore? Chu Luiyue blinked and asked. How could this be? Chu Ning hurriedly denied. As long as you wants it, Father will always be by your side. As he said this, the weight in Chu Ning's chest suddenly dissipated. In an instant, he felt as if his entire body was smooth and comfortable. This was how it should be. No matter what, he would still love you dearly in the future. Seeing that Chu Ning was truly relieved, Chu Luiyue also felt much more at ease. To be able to receive 2 sets of fatherly love was her luck and blessing. Rong Xiu watched from the side and a smile appeared on his handsome face. Since she was happy, he was happy too. Although there were many twists and turns in the middle, everything was finally perfect now. He could see that she was really happy. After they exchanged a few more pleasantries, Rong Xiu said, Now that the dust has settled and all the elders are here, let's start preparing for the wedding. All the revered elders had already guessed his plan, so when they heard this, they weren't too surprised and all agreed. In fact, Rong Xiu had already sent people to prepare for this matter long ago, so even if the notice was rather sudden, Yuntian Tower could still arrange everything in an extremely short time. Rong Xiu gave a few more instructions, no matter how big or small. 36 revered Elder Ming asked, Your Highness, the people to be invited for the wedding. Rong Xiu handed over a list of names. The list of people to be invited is here. Just go and invite them according to this. The invitations are with Yan Qing. Let him distribute them later. 36 revered Elder Ming's mouth twitched unnoticeably. Logically speaking, the guest list should be discussed and decided by the revered elders of the clan, but His Highness had already written it down. He really didn't want to wait for even a moment. 36 revered Elder Ming thought as he opened the list. After taking a few glances, he suddenly opened his eyes wide and looked at Rong Xiu in shock. Your Highness, this? Everyone looked over curiously. What was so special about the list to make 36 revered Elder Ming, who was always calm, react so intensely? Sensing those gazes, 36 revered Elder Ming swallowed his saliva and tried his best to ask tactfully, Your Highness, this list, isn't it a little too many? His Highness really didn't make up this list randomly? Putting aside those clans and sects that were on good terms with Yuntian Tower, there were also some that weren't on good terms with them, and even some that had quarreled with them before. His Highness was planning to invite all the important figures in the entire Divine Ruins world. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. Too many? I don't think so. A wedding should be lively, shouldn't it? 36 revered Elder Ming was speechless. His Highness's words, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong? But the key was that some of the people on the list might not come. If they came, it might be even more troublesome. As if seeing through his thoughts, Rong Xiu's thin lips curled up and he said calmly, I will only hold this wedding once in my life. Naturally, I have to do it well and announce it to the world. He wanted everyone in the Divine Ruins world to know. Or was his. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1789. The entire Yuntian Tower became busy. The Holy Sun's wedding was a big event for the entire clan. Everyone was naturally mobilized and did not dare to slack off. During this period of time, Chu Luiyue became the most leisurely person. As the wedding was imminent, she did not stay with Rong Xiu in the sacrificial god hall. Instead, she stayed in Chang'e Mountain, which was beside Du Ming Peak. There were many courtyards on Chang'e Mountain, and most of them were scattered, so Shangguan Yu and the rest stayed there. At the very beginning, Chu Luiyue had even specially picked a suitable time to tell Shangguan Yu about everything that had happened. Of course, most of it was good. As for some of the more troublesome parts, most of it was skipped. Anyway, those things were already in the past, and there was no point in talking about it. It would only make father sad. Even so, Shangguan Yu's heart still ached after hearing it. This made Chu Luiyue even more grateful for her previous choice. On the other hand, Chu Ning had been staying in his room ever since he came to Chang'e Mountain. On one hand, he wanted to let Chu Luiyue and Shangguan Yu catch up. On the other hand, he also wanted to concentrate on his cultivation. After coming to the Yuntian Tower, he realized that the strong were indeed respected here. If he stayed as a rank 1 warrior, not only would he be looked down upon, but he would also implicate you. Therefore, he put almost all of his thoughts and energy into this. Fortunately, he had the indestructible divine body now, and his talent had a qualitative leap. In addition, the Yuntian Tower was full of energy, which was very beneficial for cultivation. Chu Ning's cultivation speed could be said to be 1,000 miles a day. On the second day, he directly broke through to become a rank 2 warrior. On the 5th day, he jumped to become a rank 3 warrior. On the 8th day, he jumped to become a rank 4 warrior. His physical body was the divine body. When he cultivated, the absorption and digestion of the surrounding energy was no different from a real high god. In this way, it was a piece of cake for him to raise his warrior rank. As his strength rapidly increased, Chu Ning's mood became better and better. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for him to complete his breakthrough and become a true high god. Although a high god expert wasn't considered a top cultivator in the Divine Ruins world, it was still a huge improvement for Chu Ning. When he was in Yaochen, he never thought that he would be able to reach the legendary realm one day. And all of this was because he had met you. As long as he could become stronger, he would be able to protect you, in the future. Chu Luiyue also focused on cultivating in his residence. Rong Xiu had long arranged everything for the wedding ceremony, and there was no need for her to interfere in any of the major and minor matters. After asking a few questions, Chu Luiyue found that he was worried for nothing, so he simply and wisely gave up on these questions. Instead, he focused his mind and energy on his own cultivation. Even though there were quite a few accidents and dangers along the way, it was very obvious that Chu Luiyue's abilities had improved in all aspects. Especially in the god-slaying mound, she definitely benefited a lot. In the courtyard, Chu Luiyue sat quietly on a stone bench. She was toying with a stone in her hand, and there were more than a dozen stones scattered around her feet. These stones were the ones she had taken out from the god-slaying mound. They seemed to be scattered on the ground in a disorderly manner, but in fact, Chu Luiyue could clearly feel the power contained in each stone, and that restless god domain that was about to be unleashed. A stone rolled to her feet. Chu Luiyue looked down and raised her eyebrows. No. There was a boundary outside Chang'e Mountain, and without permission, outsiders couldn't enter or leave at will. But it was always better to be cautious. Every single one of these stones contained a god territory. If she unleashed it, it would definitely cause a big commotion. How would she explain it if it attracted a crowd? Actually, these stones weren't rare at all. They were just some broken tombstones that she had picked up from the god-slaying mound. Thinking of that scene, Chu Luiyue couldn't help but shudder and move her feet away. The origin force here is rich. It's enough for you to replenish your energy. Don't cause trouble. She had already discovered that these stones could devour the origin force around them and convert it into her own power, making her god territory stronger. But it was a little slow. In fact, these stones were already very efficient at absorbing energy. They could almost compete with cultivators with Daijing Yuan meridians. Chu Luiyue thought it was slow because she was too fast. Hearing her words, the stones finally quieted down. Chu Luiyue looked at them for a while, then threw out some more. Some of them rolled directly into the bushes in the distance or down the stairs. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't notice anything wrong with these stones. A subtle fluctuation came from afar. Chu Luiyue put down the stone in her hand and looked up. It was Yuemo. He walked over quickly and stood in front of Chu Luiyue. "Greetings, Your Highness." Chu Luiyue glanced at him. "Yuemo, why are you so happy?" She couldn't hide the smile on her face. Yuemo chuckled. "Your Highness, Miss Mu Hongyu is here." Chu Luiyue's eyes lit up. Then he heard a familiar clear voice. "Lu Yu." Chu Luiyue looked up slightly and indeed saw a figure heading toward her at high speed. Her almond-shaped eyes were bright, and her willowy eyebrows were raised. Who else could it be but Mu Hongyu? Chu Luiyue stood up and went to welcome her. "Hongyu, why are you only here now?" Father was far away in Tianling, and he had been here for a few days. Mu Hongyu was at Lingxiao College, so she should have arrived earlier. She didn't know why she was delayed until now. Mu Hongyu cupped her hands pitifully. "I was delayed by something at the last minute." Lu Yu, you won't blame me, right?" Chu Luiyue raised her chin. "Tell me first. What was delayed?" At the mention of this, Mu Hongyu's face fell. "Actually, it's nothing. I've been busy breaking through recently." Chu Luiyue. "This is your reason?" Mu Hongyu coughed. "Actually, it's not completely like that. It's just that some things have happened in the academy recently." Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. She felt that something was wrong. Mu Hongyu had always been passionate and enthusiastic about cultivation. Her aura had indeed strengthened. She must have succeeded in her death. If that was the case, why did she have such an expression? What happened in the academy? She had been very busy recently, so she didn't know much about the situation in the academy. Mu Hongyu hesitated for a while and stood up anxiously. "Sigh, it's actually not a big deal. It's just that Jian Fengqi also came to the academy. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network." Chapter 1790. Chu Luiyue froze for a moment. "Who are you talking about?" "Jian Fengqi." Mu Hongyu rubbed her temples with a headache. "I don't know how he got to Fangzhou City and got into the Lingxiao Academy. It happened a few days ago." Chu Luiyue came back to her senses. She was also quite shocked by this matter. "The Celestial Physician's exam?" Mu Hongyu nodded. Chu Luiyue nodded in understanding. Jian Fengqi was indeed very talented in this area. Even compared to her, he was not much worse. It was normal for him to be able to get into Lingxiao College. This is a good thing. Jian Fengqi had helped her a lot in the past. Now that he was able to enter Lingxiao College to cultivate, his future would be limitless. No matter how she thought about it, this was something to be happy about. But why did Mu Hongyu look a little upset? Mu Hongyu rubbed her face in confusion. "This is a good thing for him, but for me, Mu Hongyu was a little hesitant to say something. Chu Luiyue asked again. "Did Jian Fengqi make things difficult for you?" It didn't seem very likely. Jian Fengqi was quite good to them back then. "No, but Mu Hongyu's face turned slightly red. Chu Luiyue was very perceptive and quickly guessed something. "If I remember correctly, seems to have your indenture contract from back then?" Mu Hongyu saw that she guessed correctly and didn't hesitate anymore. "Yes. He has been making trouble for me with this matter." "Trouble?" Chu Luiyue was stunned for a moment, then quickly understood, and her expression became a little strange. Mu Hongyu was even more embarrassed under her gaze. "Lu Yu, help me think of a way." Chu Luiyue paused for a moment. "Then what did he say and do?" Mu Hongyu choked. "Just say that I ran away. He wasn't happy. He even said..." She bit her lip. Chu Luiyue had already guessed the gist of it. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile. Mu Hongyu was stunned. "Lu Yu, what are you laughing at?" Chu Luiyue tapped her forehead. "I'm laughing at your stupidity. Jian Fengqi was so pitiful. Hongyu, don't tell me you only found out now that Jian Fengqi likes you?" Mu Hongyu was stunned, but her face turned even redder. After a while, she said in a flustered and helpless manner, "I don't know." Seeing her reaction, Chu Luiyue silently shed tears of sympathy for Jian Fengqi. Mu Hongyu had a straightforward personality and was intelligent and quick-witted. However, when it came to matters of the heart, she was obviously stubborn. If Jian Fengqi wasn't interested in her, he wouldn't have spent so much money to redeem her, and he wouldn't have helped her time and time again. Chu Luiyue didn't notice it at first, but now that he thought about it, he immediately realized something. Even he could tell that Mu Hongyu, the person involved, was extremely muddle-headed. Not only did she not understand the other party's feelings at all, she even said that he was looking for trouble. TSK. He really didn't know what Jian Fengqi had been through. Where is he now? Chu Lu asked. Mu Hongyu replied, "At the academy. He should have followed you here." "Why is he still at the academy?" Mu Hongyu shrunk her neck. Her voice suddenly weakened, revealing a sense of guilt. "He's injured," Chu Luiyue face-bombed. Needless to say, it had to have something to do with Mu Hongyu. "Hongyu, you know better than anyone how Jian Fengqi treats you. Don't you like him?" Mu Hongyu was stunned. She immediately lowered her eyes, revealing a trace of confusion on her face. "I don't know." She had never thought about this before. Therefore, when Jian Fengqi spoke to her directly, she was stunned. Chu Luiyue's question made her remember to ask herself this question. What was she thinking? Chu Luiyue pondered for a moment and decided to let them deal with it themselves. After all, outsiders couldn't be sure about matters of the heart. Stay in Yuntian Tower for the time being. Calm down and think about what happened between the two of you. It won't be too late for you to go back after our wedding. It's a pity that we can't invite Jian Fengqi over. Mu Hongyu nodded, but was quickly distracted by Chu Luiyue's words. Your wedding with His Highness this time, is it very grand? When I came just now, I saw that many places were already decorated. It's so beautiful. No. The word beautiful was too superficial. It should be said that it was magnificent and shocking. Even if she only took a quick glance when she passed by, she still felt her heart skip a beat. This kind of extravagance was simply shocking. Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly. Actually, she only took a few glances at the beginning, but she didn't look at it after that. She knew very well that Rong Xiu had been planning this for a few years. It was absolutely extraordinary. But now it seemed that it was more impressive than expected. His Highness's extravagance is indeed extraordinary, Mu Hongyu murmured. Then she suddenly realized something and stared at Chu Luiyue in surprise. "Luyu, I haven't seen you for a while. Your strength has increased again?" Chu Luiyue nodded. Although she was wearing a divine artifact to hide her aura, others could still feel it. "Something happened recently," Chu Luiyue said and then changed the topic. "By the way, Debeo," before she could finish her sentence, another figure flew over. It was Yan Qing. "Greetings, Princess." Yan Qing bowed respectfully, but there was something wrong with her expression. "Princess, something happened over there. I'm afraid I have to ask you to go over." Chu Luiyue was a little surprised. "What's wrong?" Yan Qing looked at her. "The 13U guards are blocked outside the barrier. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network." Chapter 1791. The 13U guard is here too? Chu Luiyue was delighted at first, but then she frowned. Where were they stopped? "Do you know the reason?" Yan Qing said, "Princess, only 6 people from the 13U guard came this time. One of them had a suspicious dangerous item on him, which caused a disturbance in the barrier. He refused to hand over the item, so he was stopped outside the barrier." Yan Qing was also surprised when she heard about this. Then she immediately reported to Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue's thoughts raced as she walked forward. "Take me to see." Mu Hongyu hurriedly followed him. "Luyu, I'll go too." The Yuntian Tower was vast, and the barrier used to defend against enemies was also very large. Correspondingly, they were very strict about guarding the barrier. Chu Luiwei and the others attracted a lot of attention when they went to the barrier. There were not many people who could travel freely in the entire world of God, and Chu Luiwei was particularly eye-catching. Many people only took a glance from afar and knew it was her. What is Wang Fei going to do? I don't know. It looks like she's going to the barrier. Hasn't the princess been staying at Chang'e Mountain all this time? Why is she suddenly going to the barrier? Hey, haven't you heard? The princess's former subordinates were stopped outside the barrier for some reason. Now both sides are in a stalemate. The princess consort is most likely going to settle this matter. But they are just a few subordinates. Why did they come? They're here because His Highness, the Chosen One, invited them. What's there to guess? No, I mean, it's normal for His Highness the Saint and the Princess to invite the princess's elders and friends to their wedding. But they even invited their subordinates. It's really, all in all, it made people feel a little strange. Moreover, these so-called subordinates caused trouble as soon as they arrived. They didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Someone laughed. Princess Consort isn't from the Divine Ruins world. Now that she's getting married, it's normal for His Highness Holy Son to invite more people to join in the fun. There was even a hint of mockery in his words. To put it nicely, it was lively, but to put it bluntly, it was just a show of courage. The wedding is just around the corner. If those so-called subordinates really cause any trouble, they can't blame us. Chu Luiwei didn't care about that. She sped along and soon arrived at her destination. From afar, she saw Sun Yi and the others. At this time, they were standing outside the barrier, and several Yuntian tower guards were blocking their way. Both sides seemed to have entered a stalemate. Since you are the princess consort subordinates, we don't want to make things difficult for you. As long as you hand over that thing, we can immediately let you in. One of the guards frowned. It's just a waste of time for us to continue this confrontation. Sun Yi looked at the woman behind him. Little Hachi? The woman looked to be around 17 or 18 years old. She had a gorgeous appearance and exquisite facial features. Especially her pair of eyes that were suffused with a coquettish aura and could practically suck out one's soul. She could be said to be peerless. She was wearing a colorful dress, revealing her slender and fair arms as well as her calves. It was very eye-catching. Her wrists and ankles were wrapped with colorful ropes, which were decorated with broken jade beads. Every time she moved, her body would jingle. Her long black hair was tied up simply with a colored string, and it extended all the way to her ankles. Regardless of her appearance, just her outfit alone would attract attention wherever she went. She was Little Hachi of the 13U Guard. She didn't have a name, so everyone called her that. When Little Hachi heard this, she pursed her red lips in dissatisfaction. Big brother, I was planning to take that thing out after seeing Master. If I take it out now, it'll be a waste. Sun Yi's long and indifferent eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't say anything else. He understood Little Hachi's personality very well. No one could force her to do something she didn't want to do. She definitely had her own reasons for being so insistent. After thinking for a moment, Sun Yi asked, "Since you're worried, why don't you just send someone to follow us in? If anything happens, we'll take responsibility for it." The expressions of the guards turned even colder. Impossible! The barrier's reaction was so strong. How could they let them in so easily? If something really happened, they wouldn't be able to escape responsibility either. Sun Yi slowly clenched his fists in his sleeves. At this moment, he was the first to sense Chu Luiwei's movements. He turned his gaze and looked over. "Master is here," he said indifferently. The remaining guards came back to their senses and hurriedly followed his gaze. Little Hachi also opened her beautiful eyes wide and kept looking around. Where? She quickly saw Chu Luiwei. A smile appeared on that beautiful and delicate face, instantly causing the surrounding world to lose its color. In that instant, the surrounding scenery seemed to have lost its color, leaving only her. Flirtatious and gorgeous, her beauty unparalleled. "Master!" Little Hachi waved at Chu Luiwei, her figure swaying. Her pair of beautiful eyes seemed to be able to devour a person's soul. That smile of hers was truly charming. Even the guards who had been cold and stern earlier couldn't help but stare blankly at this moment. Little Hachi turned a deaf ear to them and only cared about her master. Master! Little Hachi missed you so much after not seeing you for so long. Chu Luiyue face-bombed. She knew that the one causing trouble was definitely her. Greetings, princess consort. The few guards reacted and immediately saluted. Chu Luiyue indicated for them to dispense with the formalities. I'll handle it. As she spoke, she looked at little 8. Speak, what did you bring me? She actually caused such trouble because of this. Little Hachi's red lips curled slightly and immediately revealed a smug smile. Of course it's a good treasure. Master will definitely like it. She clasped her hands together and shook them lightly. The broken jade beads on her wrist jingled, crisp and pleasant to the ear. Then, a wooden box suddenly appeared. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1792. The wooden box was about the size of a palm and was completely black. Only the edges were suffused with a faint silver. Especially at the 8 corners, there was a special pattern of flowers and vines. At a glance, it was luxurious and exquisite. Little Hachi handed the wooden box over and raised her eyebrows. Master, quickly open it and take a look. There's really good stuff inside. Chu Luiyue curiously took the wooden box. Little Hachi was very talented as a celestial physician. She especially liked to study strange prescriptions. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to help Chi Han refine a pill that could change his aura. For her to hand it over like a treasure, it must be something extraordinary. Suddenly, Chu Luiyue's eyes narrowed. Only then did she see that the flower vines on the wooden box were undergoing subtle changes. The vines and leaves moved silently, as if they were being blown by the wind. During this process, what was even more shocking was that the wooden box was actually starting to melt bit by bit. Like an ice cube that would gradually melt under the scorching sun, the wooden box started to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye after Little Hachi took it out. However, no water dripped from it. It was as if it had mysteriously evaporated and disappeared. She looked at Little Hachi suspiciously. Little Hachi hurriedly said, I already said that this thing can't be taken out casually. If the box is gone, the thing inside will be ruined. As she spoke, she urged Chu Luiyue to open it. The wooden box wasn't locked. Chu Luiyue moved her fingers and opened it. A red elixir the size of a longan fruit was lying quietly inside. The pill's color was pure and rich, and it emitted a faint medicinal fragrance. However, there were no markings on the pill that represented its grade. There was only a small flower vine leaf pattern. It was exactly the same as the one on the wooden box. Chu Luiyue was stunned at first. Then, she suddenly realized something and looked at Little Hachi in shock. This is... Master, it wasn't easy for me to refine this. It must have been hard on you to bring it all the way here. Little Hachi looked at her and saw the crux of the matter. She blinked and a pair of soft and boneless hands climbed onto Chu Luiyue's arm. She leaned against her and said in a gentle voice, Master, how do you plan to reward Little Hachi? Chu Luiyue's eyelids twitched. Little 8 was a natural demon. Her eyes were filled with a myriad of emotions. No matter where she went, she was the most eye-catching. Over the years, she had been seducing her, but she didn't give them a second glance. On the other hand, every time she met Chu Luiyue, she would always stick to Chu Luiyue seductively. After all, they hadn't seen each other for a few years. Chu Luiyue almost couldn't take it when this happened so suddenly. Cough. Of course, Chu Luiyue. Ling Shao Academy's herb garden is for you to use for 1 month. Really? Little Hachi's eyes lit up and she was overjoyed. Master, you're the best to me. She had been coveting that herb garden for a long time. It was a pity that her master had always valued that herb garden and was reluctant to let her use it. This time, it was finally a success. Seeing Little Hachi sticking to Chu Luiyue and acting coquettishly, Yanqing couldn't help but frown. Why was this woman like this? Chu Luiyue took out the pill and was about to swallow it. Yanqing tried to dissuade her. Princess consort, this pill, what if there was a problem? Chu Liu smiled and said, Little Hachi is mine. Don't worry. Little Hachi glared at Yan Qing. This pill was specially refined by me to help Master refine his divine body. You don't know anything. Why are you here to cause trouble? Yan Qing glanced at Little Hachi indifferently. His face was still expressionless, as if he didn't care about what she was saying at all. Since the princess consort said that she was trustworthy, then there shouldn't be a problem. It wasn't appropriate for him to continue speaking. But the princess consort's subordinates were all rather special. Yan Qing's eyes swept across Sun Yi and the rest without batting an eyelid, but he quickly retracted his gaze. Seeing that Yan Qing actually didn't care about her, Little Hachi was instantly enraged. You? Chu Liu pressed her hand. She knew that Yan Qing had always been like this. It wasn't that he was targeting Little Hachi. Little Hachi could only suppress the anger in her heart and snort. What do you people know? If Master uses this pill of mine, he will refine his divine body in less than a year. As soon as he said this, the guards secretly looked at each other and revealed a tacit smile. This woman was so boastful. It was a pity that she wasn't that smart. There were many high god experts in the divine ruins world, and there were also many pills that could help one break through to the high god level. But they had never heard of a pill in this world that could guarantee that one could refine their divine body in less than a year after using it. This woman was too good at bragging. Chu Liu's gaze quickly swept across the few of them, and she easily guessed their thoughts. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she chuckled softly and looked away. At this moment, the wooden box in her hand had completely dissipated. Since the item has been verified and I have used it, can you let them in now? The guards hurriedly bowed. Yes. Princess consort, please. Everyone please. No matter what, they had to give face to the princess consort. Chu Liu nodded at Sun Yi and the rest. This time, they entered in a single file, and the barrier didn't produce any abnormal fluctuations. Chu Liu's gaze swept across them and smiled. Since you're here, follow me to Jianghu Mountain first. I haven't seen you for a while, so let's have a good chat. With that, she turned and walked in the direction of Jianghu Mountain. The others followed closely behind. It was only when their figures gradually disappeared into the distance that the guards finally relaxed. That girl called Little 8 just now was really arrogant and unbridled. She was full of nonsense. How could there be such a pill in this world? Didn't she do her homework before spouting nonsense? Saying it out loud would be a joke for no reason. I heard that they are the same as the princess consort, also from the Tianling dynasty. They probably think that we are as ignorant as the ordinary people from their place, right? So they are from outside the divine ruins world. No wonder. I really don't know how the princess consort chooses people to take in such people as her subordinates. Didn't you see the youngest youth over there? He looks to be only 13 or 14 years old. He's just a teenager. What can he do? I'm guessing that the princess consort chose these people for fun. Heh, I hope they don't cause any trouble. However, this seems to be a little difficult. They haven't even entered yet, but they've already caused a ruckus. Who knows what those people will do in the future? The guards shook their heads in disapproval. The princess consort is very outstanding. This is indisputable. It's a pity that there are too many people dragging her down. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1793. Yan Qing escorted Chu Liu and the others to Jianghu Mountain before bidding farewell and leaving with Umo. The princess consort and her subordinates would definitely have a lot to talk about. It was naturally inappropriate for outsiders to be present. Little Hachi pursed her red lips as she watched Yan Qing and Umo's departing figures. He ran fast. If not for her master's sake, she would have already made a move just now. Chu Liu smiled as she brought the few of them back to her yard. Yan Qing and Umo are both nice people. He said that just now because he was concerned about my safety. Little Hachi, don't take it to heart. Who would care about that ice-cold face? Little Hachi rolled her eyes, her face full of disdain. Hypocrite. This was the kind of person she hated the most. Chu Luwei glanced at her and knew that she was still dissatisfied with Yan Qing. He chuckled softly and didn't continue to persuade her. Little Hachi might have a strange temper, but she was extremely smart. Now that they were in Yuntian Tower's territory, she wouldn't really get into a fight with them. Chu Luwei pushed open the door and entered, but Mu Hongyu stopped at the door. "Liu, why don't you guys talk first? I won't disturb you." She could tell that these people followed Lu Yu's lead blindly. They had traveled thousands of miles to come here, so they definitely had a lot to talk about between master and servant. Chu Luiyue thought about it and didn't continue to keep her. He nodded. "All right." Mu Hongyu sized them up curiously one last time, then quietly closed the door and left alone. Only Chu Luiyue, Sun Yi, and the others were left in the room. "Greetings, master." They bowed in unison. Chu Luiyue chuckled and said, "It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we last met. You must have had a hard time coming here this time. There's no need to stand on ceremony." Little Hachi walked over with seductive steps. "Master still loves us dearly." Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows and glanced at her. "There are no outsiders here. Stand properly." Little Hachi pouted and stomped her feet like a spoiled child. Master is about to get married, so he doesn't care about Little Hachi anymore. Chu Luiyue helplessly held his forehead. She really didn't know what to do with Little Hachi. Sun Yi glanced indifferently at Little Hachi. Little Hachi suddenly became alert. She snorted, but still stood there obediently. In this world, only Sun Yi could subdue her. It wasn't because of anything else. It was because Sun Yi was much stronger than her. Furthermore, he attacked without mercy. Even Chu Luiyue's heart couldn't help but soften when faced with such a beautiful face. However, Sun Yi would never be like that. If he said that he would dislocate Little Hachi's left arm, it definitely wouldn't be her right arm that would be dislocated. Hence, Little Hachi was still a little respectful towards Sun Yi. Chu Luiyue scanned the surroundings. This time, there were a total of 6 people, including Sun Yi and Little Hachi. Other than the 2 of them, Wu Yao, Yu Jiu, and Shifang were all here. There was also Little 13. Chu Luiyue smiled and waved at Little 13. "13, come over quickly. Haven't you grown taller recently?" Little 13 had been obediently following behind everyone. When he heard Chu Luiyue call him, he immediately became happy. The youth's eyes were bright, and his appearance was delicate. His body, which was growing, seemed a little thin. There was still a hint of immaturity in his eyes, but there was also a hint of calmness that hadn't been there before. It was a sign that he was gradually growing up. Chu Luiyue stood up. When Little 13 walked in front of her, she realized that he was already slightly taller than her. She was stunned for a moment before she couldn't help but laugh. 13 has really grown up. 13's ears were slightly red, but his expression was very happy. In the past, everyone treated him like a child, but now, he could clearly feel that everyone's attitude towards him had changed. In short, he was very happy. Growing up and becoming stronger meant that he could help Master in the future. Chu Luiyue patted 13's shoulder lightly, then looked at everyone. Apart from Sun Yi, she really hadn't seen these people in a long time. "How have you guys been?" They all nodded. "Sun Yi, I've been reading recently." "Very good." "Wu Yao, I've been practicing boxing recently." "Very good." "Yu Jiu, I've been practicing swords recently." "Very good." "I've been farming recently." "Very good." Chu Luiyue, seeing her speechless expression, 13 hurriedly raised his hand. "I've been running recently." "Very good." Chu Luiyue looked at him with gratification. "During puberty, you should run more and exercise your body." 13 was very happy to be praised. A shy and bright smile bloomed on his delicate face. "Master, you haven't praised 13 in a long time. Last time, you said that 13 cooked well and praised 13 for eating a lot." Chu Luiyue. "Oh, is that so?" She coughed. It had been a long time since she last saw them, but these people were busy with their own things as usual. Where are the others? It's Sun Yi. Previously, His Highness the Holy Sun sent a message to Tianling. After knowing that you were going to marry the Holy Sun, I immediately informed the 13U tribe. However, time was a little tight, so only the few of us rushed over. The others were further away, so they couldn't come together. In addition, for Wells and the others were stationed in Tianling. We had to leave someone there. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. I'm already very surprised that the few of you can come. Ever since her accident, the 13U tribe had left Tianling and scattered. After such a long time, there hadn't been a chance to gather them back. Now that 6 of them had come, it was indeed quite good. Sini looked at her and asked, Master, have you regained your memories? Chu Luiyue nodded. Since she had broken through to become a supreme god again and summoned back the divine realm, she had naturally regained her memories. Sini nodded. In fact, they had already guessed this before, but this was a serious matter, so they still had to confirm it before they could truly be at ease. Chu Luiyue asked them a few more questions, and everyone answered them one by one. She also briefly told them about some of the things that had happened recently. Wu Yao looked ashamed. I didn't expect Master to have suffered so much here. It's all our fault for coming too late. Chu Luiyue smiled nonchalantly. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. Although there were some twists and turns in the middle, fortunately, everything was daunting but not dangerous. Moreover, I gained more than I lost. Overall, it was actually a good thing. 13 clenched his fists. Master, then after this, we won't go back. We'll stay in the Divine Ruins world with you. We'll protect you well. Sun Yi's expression changed slightly when he heard this, and he looked at Chu Luiyue. Master, what do you plan to do after this? Chu Luiyue knew what he was asking. She paused but didn't immediately answer this question. Instead, her lips curled up in a smile. I have a friend who has been researching how to build a teleportation formation. If you have time, go and teach him. Sun Yi nodded. Yes. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1794. Chu Luiyue asked with a smile. You didn't even ask who he was and agreed to it directly? Sun Yi nodded. Since he's your friend, there's naturally no problem. There weren't many people who could make her truly recognize this person as a friend. Chu Luiyue smiled helplessly and shook her head. Sun Yi was too smart, and sometimes she seemed a little boring. The friend she was referring to was naturally Lin Qifei. He didn't come this time, but she had already asked Mu Hongyu previously. Recently, Lin Qifei had been busy with the teleportation array in the academy, just like before. According to Mu Hongyu, Lin Qifei's strength had increased greatly recently, and the teleportation array was already built. Some of the elders in the academy knew about it and were full of praise for him. However, they all thought that Lin Qifei was so diligent in studying the teleportation array because he was interested in it. But in reality, everything was because of a promise between him and Chu Luiyue. It seemed that things were progressing well. It's only a few days until the wedding. During this time, you can stay at Chang'e Mountain. I've already ordered people to tidy it up for you. If there's anything, just look for me directly. Little Hachi blinked her seductive eyes and moved closer to Chu Luiyue with a smile. Master, I've only heard of this Yuntian Tower before, but I've never been here. I wonder, as long as you don't cause trouble, you can stroll around here as you wish. Chu Luiyue immediately guessed what she was thinking and directly gave her an answer. Little Hachi's smile grew even wider. I knew Master was the best. Have you heard? A few of the princess consort subordinates from the Tianling dynasty are also here. Just now, there seemed to be an argument at the barrier. This news has already spread throughout the Yuntian Tower. Who doesn't know? Didn't you say that it was because one of the women had something on her that caused the barrier to react abnormally and stop them? Hey, that's what I want to say. Do you know what it is that woman is unwilling to hand over? What? Pills. She also said that as long as the princess consort uses that pill, she'll definitely be able to temper her divine body within a year. What? There's such a pill in the world? Why don't we know about it? She's probably just trying to put up a front. After all, she's from outside the Divine Ruins world. On a mountain peak not far from Duming Peak, A few people were walking up while talking about something. Although the Yuntian Tower was vast, the news spread among the clan members was fast. Not long after the incident happened over there, many people knew they had nothing to say about Chu Luiyue. Her talent was extraordinary, her strength was also strong, and her appearance was one in a million, a beauty that could topple cities. His only shortcoming was his family background. Actually, I feel that the princess consort is not without a backer. Senior Shengguan Jing's name was resounding back then. Even now, a venerable blacksmith is very rare and honorable in the entire Divine Ruins world. Moreover, the princess consort is the direct disciple of the dean of Lingxiao College. She's also very powerful. Someone had a different opinion and refuted in a low voice. That's right, but think about it carefully. Senior Shengguan Jing is weak, and Dean Nan. His words and actions represent the entire Lingxiao College. He would never ignore the entire college for the sake of the princess consort. In short, the princess consort has to take care of herself if she's in trouble. That's true. I heard that the princess consort's relatives, friends, and subordinates are not very strong. Let's not talk about Mu Hongyu from Lingxiao College. Although she's strong, she doesn't have any background. As for the princess consort's father, he's only a stage 1 warrior. What's there to hope for? Although the words were unpleasant, they were all true. How could it be so easy to establish a foothold in the Divine Ruins world? At this moment, a snow-white and muscular figure suddenly flew out from the bushes and pounced on them. The man standing at the front who was talking was shocked and hurriedly retreated. However, he was fast, but the other party was faster. He only saw a blur in front of his eyes, and a white shadow flashed past. Then, his body flew out uncontrollably. Bang! There was a muffled sound. A few sharp scratches appeared on his chest, and his flesh and blood rolled. The intense pain caused his face to turn pale. The remaining people were shocked and were about to attack, but they were stunned when they saw the other party. It was a white lion. Its fur was snow-white, and its ice-blue eyes were indifferent and cold. At this moment, it was staring intently at the few of them. It lowered its body slightly, as if it was ready to attack at any time. A strong murderous intent spread from its body. The remaining people's faces also turned pale. This was the Holy Sun's magical beast. How could they attack? Moreover, they were no match for it. Its cold gaze landed on the man who was covered in wounds on the ground, causing him to shiver. He swallowed the rest of his words and did not dare to make a sound. The air seemed to have stopped flowing and froze inch by inch. The few of them tensed up. After a while, one of them forced himself to speak. Lord Shui, we didn't mean what we said just now. Shui narrowed its eyes. Didn't mean it? Did they think it was stupid? A low roar came from Shui's throat, and then it suddenly raised its claws. Since they didn't mean it, then it would also do it a few times unintentionally. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1795. Taking care of these people was a piece of cake for Shui. After a series of white flashes, the people present were all injured to varying degrees. Seeing that Shui was about to continue, one of them quickly shouted, Lord Shui, His Highness the Saint and the Princess Consort's wedding is imminent. It's really inappropriate if someone dies. Only then did Shui stop. It tilted its head and pondered for a moment, as if it was considering this person's words. The few of them held their breaths nervously and did not dare to move. They did not even dare to utter a single word. Every second that Shui was thinking was torture to them. Finally, Shui turned around and left. It was indeed inappropriate to delay Master's wedding because of these few people. Seeing that it had finally decided to leave, the few of them looked relieved that they had survived a disaster. However, after taking a few steps, Shui turned around again. Its cold and indifferent eyes swept across their faces as if it wanted to remember their faces clearly. Everyone understood the meaning in its eyes. It was waiting to settle the score with them. After taking a look, Shui left in a flash. The snow-white figure flashed before their eyes and soon disappeared. However, the hearts of the few people who stayed on the spot sank. Offending this person would not end well for you either. If they had known that Lord Shui was so protective of the princess consort and happened to be here, they would not have said that even if they were beaten to death. The few of them clutched their wounds and regretted it. Lord Shui is a vengeful person. I'm afraid it's over. One of them said regretfully. The other people's faces were deathly pale. As for the man who was attacked first, when he thought of what would happen to him, he was so angry that he fainted. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Everyone had to pay the price for their words and actions. Chu Luiwei was cultivating in her room. Suddenly, a wave came. She opened her eyes and looked at the window. A big furry head poked in through the window. Because the body was too big and the window was too small, it was stuck. A pair of ice blue eyes looked at Chu Luiwei innocently and pitifully. Roar! Chu Luiwei immediately got up and walked over, feeling helpless and amused. Shui, why did he have to come in through the window every time? This small window can't accommodate your big body. As she spoke, she walked to the window and opened it even wider. Only then did she finally let Shui in. All right, you. Before he could finish his sentence, the liberated Shui immediately pounced on him. He hadn't seen it for a while, and it had grown a lot bigger and heavier. This time, Chu Luiwei almost couldn't catch it. Fortunately, her strength had increased by quite a bit, and she barely managed to scoop Shui up. A ball of furry fur reported to her. Chu Luiwei let out a long sigh. Phew. Shui, why are you so much heavier than before? Is it because you've been eating and sleeping well in the Yuntian Tower that you've put on weight? Chu Luiwei was originally teasing, but after saying that, she realized that Shui's condition seemed a little off. It didn't say anything and just leaned against her leg. Shui. Chu Luiwei looked down and saw Shui's expression. It didn't seem very happy. Sensing her gaze, Shui looked up. There was a faint light in its ice blue eyes, and it seemed to be very wronged. She was slightly stunned. Strange, Shui was happy every time it saw her. This had never happened before. What's wrong with our Shui? Who bullied you? Chu Luiwei rubbed Shui's head. This was the Yuntian Tower. Even if there was bullying, it should be Shui bullying others, right? Why was it so wronged? Chu Luiwei bent down and smelled an extremely faint smell of blood. Her expression changed slightly as she grabbed Shui's claws. Only then did she see that there were fresh bloodstains on its sharp nails. Ooh. Who did you fight with? Chu Luiwei frowned. To be able to make Shui choose to fight in the Yuntian Tower, just as she was filled with worry, Shui suddenly leaned its head over. Chu Luiwei was stunned. Shui didn't say anything. It only rubbed its big head carefully and clumsily against her shoulder. Woo, it seemed to be comforting her? It's angry. Dumpling's voice suddenly sounded in her heart. It heard someone talking bad about you just now, so it fought with them. Chu Luiwei suddenly understood. Her heart seemed to have been hit by something soft. Shui was protecting her. She smiled and hugged Shui's head. Shui, why lower yourself to the level of those people? Shui let out a low sound. Of course it was angry. Those people actually dared to talk about her like that. If it wasn't for the fact that it didn't want to delay the wedding, it wouldn't have let them off so easily. It would definitely take revenge in the future. Chu Luiwei rubbed Shui's head. Her eyes were slightly lowered, but she was thinking about something. Dumpling asked, Look, I told you, those people don't know how to restrain themselves. They will only be obedient after being beaten up. Ayu was right, but when would she be willing to make a move? She was really itching to do it now. Chu Luiwei was silent for a moment before she suddenly laughed. There are still 5 or 6 days before the wedding. Let them make a fuss one last time. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.